Hey guys, good morning.
Good morning.
Tim May, I'm the host of the AI Meetup here, and thank you for coming. Hopefully we'll have a good presentation. We have Matt Denman's going to do a presentation, as you can see, on semantic networks in the large language model world, which is kind of an interesting subject. I'll let him dive into that in a few minutes. Sammy Lee is also going to come in and speak for maybe 5 minutes to tell you a little bit about what she's doing, and then she's doing a presentation at demo time. Are you guys familiar with that session later on today? It's a session where people come in and show their current projects, and that's kind of fun. So I highly recommend that. I was going to give her 5 minutes to talk about it, but she's not here, so we may just go ahead and get started. Well, it's 3 minutes till, so we'll give a couple minutes. Before we get started, I want to tell you that we have our AI Meetup online. You can join if you like. It's nice. That way I can maybe send you guys messages, about upcoming meetups. Most of them will be here, but occasionally we do other things. There's Sammy. So please join. If you also want to yourself present, if you have something interesting, I'm always interested in talking to potential speakers, so you can give me a holler. Just hit me on LinkedIn, and we'll get started that way, or you can message me through the AI Meetup. Yes, sir.
The group, the meetup, where is that?
You go to meetup.com, you look for Las Vegas AI Meetup.
Okay, thank you.
And you'll see me, and you just message me, and go from there. So, Sammy, did you want to have a couple minutes to talk?
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. Okay. Hi. Yes. Normally, I don't get to come to this session, even though it's amazing, because I'm at Who's Got My Money, and I will run over there afterwards. But one of the things that normally I walk around helping startups raise money by building pitch decks, data rooms, and financial models. To make myself better at that, I joined the incubator myself. And while I was there, I fell in love with an AI tool that I'm making. My vision is quite simply, do any of you guys run your own business? Just raise hands, quite a couple of you. Have you ever paid $200 an hour for an expert? Have you ever wanted to work with an expert instead of not paying $200 to work with you? Cool. The AI tool that I'm in love with, and I'll tell you, I would love to get feedback from this group right here. I'm going to say something controversial. I don't think that AI is going to replace humanity. Can you raise your hand if you believe that AI is not going to replace humanity? Oh, I love hearing that. That's amazing. Raise your hand if you think AI can replace humanity, though. We don't need humans in the first place. See, controversial. It's okay. It's okay. I'm building an AI tool. And I realized that I don't really want to compete against ChatGPT for ChatGPT. I realized that there are a number of people who prompt engineer until they can't anymore and they say, I'm done. Maybe you hire an expert, maybe you don't. But what I would like to do is I would like to create a button that says escalate to an expert. And for $200 a month, which is less than the cost of 1 hour with a consultant, you would instead get to have that message you were already typing to my version of ChatGPT escalated to a human who answers it instead. Right now where I'm at is I just had to pitch to a room full of AI experts, and they said, we don't like you. We don't like that you don't think that AI is everything. We don't like that you haven't proven that humans really want a human element in their AI tool. And so I have to go get 20 letters of intent from people who think it would be pretty cool to spend $200 for a month with a human and an AI component to it, instead of $200 an hour. If that's something you'd like to hear more about, I have letters of intent literally on me right now for you to sign if that's something you're interested in. But I'm going to do a 5-minute version of this where I'll show you the texts that I'm already having with customers today. And I'm sure you guys will look at it and be like, oh yeah, AI can do that. And then imagine the conversations we as humans get to have if the AI is having the easy ones for us. So I promise this will only be 5 minutes, but if you guys are interested, please come find me afterwards. I'm Sammy. I'll be at demo time later today. I'll be around at lunch. I'm always around. Please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thanks, all right, now I'll turn it over to Matt.
Hello, my name is Matt Denman, and thanks for spending some time talking with me today about semantic networks. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And I will try, because I do need to kind of see this, and I should have been. So it has been 40 years now of software development. I got my first job writing Pascal at Fairchild Semiconductor in South Portland, Maine, where I was helping to test military chips before they shipped out to the government. So I would have this like assembly line, and each chip would come in, and I'd have this little tube come down. It would test it through the high and low temps, and if it survived those ranges, it'd go on to a box and get shipped to the government to do whatever they were going to do with it. So, but during that time, I've gone through a lot of different things, from building software on mainframes with 360 assembler to C++, parallel software development, massively parallel development, web and development, doing a lot of front-end work too. I'm a creator, I'm a maker. So I build software to create things. I don't build software because I want to make a living and I'm always thinking about other things. This has been my passion. It's been a part of my life since day one. So I call myself an Imagineer, and I think that this skill set is going to be super important for anybody, because your imagination is now your most important asset. Your limits are your imagination, not your skill set, because the AI will help you with your skill set, no problem. So now it's about where can you go? What can you build? How will it work? How will the gears come together? That's where your imagination, sometimes people don't necessarily see what's possible, because they limit their vision. They think within a box. They don't think outside the box, if you will. So I'm a passionate person, and you're gonna see that this applies to this work as well. So now, this is not the first time I've done this slide deck. So I did this the first time. I had a lot of people that knew me from my career. They came to see me to do that. And so I have had a chance to work with some really amazing people. So I've learned so much along the way. So many great, fantastic people at every place I've worked. In fact, I would say that one of the most important things that I've had is people who gave me a hard time. People who gave me what I would call an ego haircut. Because if you don't get that ego haircut once in a while, your head's going to just blow up, and you're not going to be a normal person. You're kind of be a pain in the butt. So those are the people I actually appreciate the most, is the people that drove me to either like quit or become a better person to respond to their stimulus. So I've been thinking about semantic networks since I was a kid. These things have been around for a long, long time. Back when I was a kid, I drew out family hierarchies. Like, think about like your parents and their children and then their grandparents, and you try to see this big tree. That's kind of like a semantic network, like Matt Denman's mother, Rosemary Denman, you know. And so a big part of that was dreaming about robots, the Robot Trilogy, the Foundation series. Those books were amazing books that talked about, like, that's Isaac Asimov was the one that came up, what was it, the 3 rules of robotics, around making sure that humanity was always kept in place. And those things are starting to become important to us now with the ethics and the things that we're doing around that. The positronic brain, I think that's kind of where we're going with it. So part of what I'm going to be demoing to is an app I've been building. It's more than an app. It's a whole cluster of services, a front end, databases, parallel processing. It can scale up to hundreds of servers in the cloud, and it can also run locally on your own equipment if you have it. And so one of the big focuses of that work is OSINT. Has anyone here ever heard of OSINT before? Open Source Intelligence. So this thing is really good. The tool I've got is really good at just kind of going out, watching everything you do on the web, or just going out on the web using my tab, using my authentication. So it can just like open up my browser tab, start going through pages, and start building up a knowledge of everything. And then that allows me to find hay number 5,732 out of 2 billion pieces of hay. And that hay is actively moving through the haystack. Finding a needle in a haystack is easy. I just need a metal detector and find it in a few seconds. But finding a specific piece of hay in a haystack that doesn't want to be found, well, that's a whole different story. That's open source intelligence, and being able to, and so another big thing that I'm trying to do, and the semantic network fits into, is I don't want to replace people either. I want to accelerate you. I want to extend your reach so that you can build better quality work in less time. And I certainly have been experiencing that myself. I'm not sure where you're all at in that process, but I find myself getting more work done in less time, without a doubt. So a big part of what we're trying to do here is that intelligence, just getting all this information and not being able to act on it, being able to bring together all this knowledge, connect together the pieces of it. So imagine you're going out, you're getting different documents. Like a good example, you go into a big organization like American Express or something like that. They hook you up to their Confluence, a couple 100,000 pages across an entire enterprise, right? Well, imagine if you could digest that whole thing into your system and build this network of knowledge so that you could say, and not only that, say the JIRA tickets too, so that you could say, what are all the teams that we've had in the last 5 years? What have they been doing? What are the products they've been building? Have they been on time? Have you had issues with employees working within those teams? If you hook me up to the email communication and the Slack chat or something like that, I could discover psychological issues developing between employees before it ever even reached management, just because of the way that they communicate with each other. So, it's about bringing together as much information as you can from different sources in order to give you that knowledge that you didn't see. Connect the dots. If I'm going to show a visual here in a moment where connecting the dots so you can really see it. Part of my whole package is improving your mind, your physique, your whole thing. So you're trying to become a better human being. That's at least where I'm going with this, and the product itself. And the AI is a piece of it, in order to help make that work. So I also use this tool to manage a couple websites I run, like stringclub.com and KusogLife.com, which I'll show, because when you say go to KusogLife, you can say set up goals and the AI will help you to figure out, well, based on your diet preferences and so forth, I would recommend you eat 2,500 calories a day, or something like 4,000 calories a day I eat typically. And so then it would help me set up how I want to break down my food so I get all my macros and micros. Set up my diet too, so that, my exercise routine as well. And the way I make money with that is it's all free, but the way is that when you want to order products, like you run out of your protein powder or your vitamins, I can promote to buy these other brands, and then also if you buy through me, I get the commission, either Amazon's reseller or not reseller, affiliate, yeah, or directly. A lot of the brands have affiliates that are better rates. So if I can get an affiliate rate with a brand, the buy now button would go to their site to pay for it. Otherwise, go to Amazon.com. So part of what this thing has done is, like I was mentioning before, being able to walk in, like being able to go into a job, a consultant, and you're coming into a project with a lot of moving parts, and you just want to know more than most people in that team by the end of the week. Well, that's what this product is trying to do. And the semantic network lets you connect things together. So part of what I've been trying to do is connect up this whole subject, predicate, object relationship. So if you ever think about a semantic network, Matt Denman was born in Providence, Rhode Island. John Doe works in Providence, Rhode Island. Bill Smith, born in Providence, Rhode Island, moved to, and so all those connecting dots. Here's an example. So this is just me going to, and I'm not necessarily, I'm a programmer, I'm not a politics, I'm not a religious. So if it happens to be I picked a news story that somehow triggers, please, it had no meant to, no. But this was a story on CNN I happened to pick up, and it's just talking about like locations, right, and people, and things that happen between them. Now that's just one article. So here's this name I've never heard of, Ariana Sablanca. And so what else do I know about her?
She's a tennis player.
What?
She's a tennis player.
Yeah, I think this is swimming. I thought, but maybe I could be wrong. Or maybe Australian Open. Maybe you're right. Tennis. Sorry. All right. So, see, that's how much. Yeah, I don't even care, because I just wanted a network. So I just went to CNN, picked a story. I didn't even read it, and here it is. All right. So, but the thing is it's showing the knowledge. So think of, if you've all worked with LLMs, if you've ever done embeddings, if you ever here familiar with an embedding, what that means? All right, there's two ways an AI can learn. One is probably what you're most familiar with, which is I want to drill it into its brain. I want it to know so much about, say, me, that I can just say, who's Matt Denman, and it knows because it's built into its neural net. But we don't have to have everything in the neural net, and probably think about how they're getting sued for the books. Oh, you trained it on my book, and now it can rewrite the whole book. You copyright violation. Okay, don't train on their book. Just when I ask for that, I'll go do a search on the internet, grab chunks of content, embed it in the big conversation, the exchange, the prompt, if you will, right? When you're building a prompt, you can put all this stuff in there. And so you can embed this knowledge into it and say, write a story about this knowledge, and it will. That's embedding. And so when you hear about, why would someone want 120 some odd thousand tokens coming out of ChatGPT-4 with only, what, 4K coming back out of it, or 8K? What good is that? Why would anyone want that? Well, you can load up 100,000 tokens of information. Maybe your resume you want it to rewrite. Maybe your history of your family. Maybe it's a bullet list of what's my calendar look like for this day, so that I can say, hey, tell me about my calendar if I have any open schedules. And it got that chunk of information, and it was able to answer it without ever embedding it inside of the neural net. So you didn't have to train it. The book isn't embedded in there. I'm going off and getting it from the internet like anyone else. So the history is, they've been around for a long time. Semantic networks and way of representing knowledge. You're trying to draw little circles or squares and connect them up with lines to represent knowledge, because words can get kind of tricky. You know, words can be misrepresented and so forth. But it's still the power of the word. And so they were brought into computers as early as 1956. And then I would just mention Marvin Minsky. Marvin Minsky is the creator of AI. His visions on the frame system and the work that he did are basically semantic networks. But they had, I mean, think of the computers in the 80s. My goodness, you wear better on your phone, I mean, on your watch or whatever. So whatever they did was amazing. But the papers they wrote, the knowledge that they defined actually still come here, and they're very relevant. But there was something missing. It was very hard to get the knowledge into the system, all right? And it was hard to verify any of it. So there was a lot of potential for semantic networks, but it was hard to really, how do you use it? What are you going to do with it? How is it valuable? And that's where I kind of want to show some of that now. So it's great at finding relationships. So here's a good example. These are doc A, B, C, D, and E. Has these facts in it. John Smith, born at Northside Hospital. John Smith in a car accident. John Smith was married to Jane Doe. John Smith became a father of Bill Smith. Dr. Bill Smith bought gas at a 7-Eleven in Dahlonega, Georgia. Later, John Smith was murdered in Dahlonega, Georgia, December 1st. Bill Johnson was arrested for robbery at that same Savannah area as the guy was getting gas. Is there a connection between could you have connected those two people together with that basic knowledge? Yes, because they both were in Savannah. Well, yeah, supposed to be anyway. I mean, yeah, yeah, here we go. Dahlonega, sorry. Both were in Dahlonega at that time. See, it's even hard to keep track of it. So being able to connect all that together. Well, the best way is to see it. And we're about to show a demo here in a minute. I hope I have my plug-in working here, because I normally bring my MacBook and I don't know if I have everything I want on here. Let me go back for a minute here. I have this process as you bring in your documents, like your emails, your Confluence documents. You travel to your website, you go to your website, they're brought in, and it will turn that into a number, like creating an embedding. It creates a vector search, very similar to like when some of these other models are taking text and turning it into an image or other things. There's this process where you're taking your question or you're taking your chunk of information and turning it into a number so that you can easily find that later. And so I also, though, process it for semantic relationships. And that's where the large language model really comes in. Now let's see if I can make this demo the way I would really like to show. Come on now. Come on. Goodness. You'll have to forgive me for the angle of the monitor and all that. I should have the mirroring set up, but goodness, let me log in. Now this isn't live. I mean, it's on the internet, but it's not really. So here, I know it says undefined, but it really isn't. Here it's showing, this is just a top level view. I just put together this view yesterday, so visually it's not very nice. But what you're seeing over here is a set of topics, like a knowledge I know. Like on the top, look at this with my cursor in here. I have people, 23,000 people in my knowledge. This is just a simple demo. And now I see those people in here. And if I click on one of them, I'm supposed to now see, like, here's where I'm working on this view here. So it's mostly still sitting in the database, but this isn't what I'm on a demo, but it's here in front of me. This and that, if I know this person, if I have your locations, I'm gonna have a Google map here. It's gonna show pins for every geolocation. If you said, you know, Dahlonega, Savannah, I'm gonna have the geo IP and it's gonna be on a Google map. I have a sliding timeline so that if I pick a person or an institution, every knowledge I have would be on this sliding view where I could just click on it and open it up. And it's supposed to be that I would see a list of the documents that, where did it get that information from? So part of what this does, though, let me see if I can. It is a little slower because we're going over this Wi-Fi phone. And so hopefully let's see if the tab installed, let's see if it may not have installed my plug-in. I have a plug-in that for Chrome that will let me, and I don't have any, I don't have my, let me just give me a second here to check. Because it's really nice to see it working. So I'm going to go into my extensions and make sure if it's got that there. It's in dev mode. And it should be good in there. So it should work if I have everything set up here. But it looks like maybe I got to refresh this one. Otherwise, I won't show the gathering of knowledge, and I will have to try to get it later. But I really would like to. I think I have videos of it on YouTube I could pull up. Yeah, it's not. It won't let me install the plugin. So I'm really kind of bummed out because what it'll do is as I process, it would bring up a tab and then it would let me suck in that content and then process the semantic network through the AI. But while I'm here, I do want to show a couple other things. So one is, there's this personal assistant. Again, I'm sorry, like if these photos, I'm generating all this content. This is all from my own AI server, like image stable diffusion generation or whatever. So we shouldn't see anything we shouldn't see, but it's possible that and I don't want anything bad. One thing, does anyone notice though what's happening here with this? Like, normally when you bring up an LLM prompt, what does it require you to do? You have to start typing something, don't you? I didn't type anything, did I? And it says, good day, Matthew. Your daily news summary is all set, waiting for you. Siggy, because she's Filipina. Would you like to dive into your schedule for today, or perhaps we could continue our gab about temporal time travel or your anticipation for Emma reaching out after her high school graduation? Just a heads up, you have a 9 a.m. call with Bill Smith to chat about Kusog Quest. Later at 1 p.m., there's a meeting with Jill Atkins. And I can say things like, who am I?
Why are we here?
And you'll say, it says here, you are Matt Denman. And if I say, what time is it? And where am I? The current time is 11:23 based on my current location, and without a specific location context. It's not, so it knows that my current time is 11:23.
So it's almost like a personal assistant.
That's right, and it has all my knowledge. For example, I can say, tell me about my relationship with my mother. It is your relationship with your mother, Victoria, appears to, and I hit it, it's going again. However, Victoria's response to your email reveals a deep sense of hurt and frustration. So because and then, did you see something we weren't supposed to see? Or, she's just helping people. All right, come on now. And so, and so here we are talking about, because it actually, this data is it's partial, right? But in another login I've sucked in almost 30 years of email, like 400,000 email. I have so much knowledge about my relationships with people coming in through that it turns out to be like, if you have that level of email, it's like footprints in the snow of your life. I mean, the amount of knowledge, I'm like, holy crap, you know about me, you know about who I am. Because I wrote emails to my mother or my kids and stuff like that. And it brings it in, and the way I'm trying to organize the content, the semantic network plays an important part of it. Because if you ask it for something where it has to show you 200 items in a list, like these, if I go back to the Explorer view, and click that back.
Is all that information being processed locally, or where are you sort of plugging that into?
Yeah, it's local. I have servers with GPUs running on it, and it's in a Kubernetes cluster. I use a combination of Python, .NET, Core, C#, JavaScript, where I also have like a Visual Studio extension, Visual Studio Code extension, the Chrome extension, which normally works great in Chrome, but this is Brave, not Chrome. Because I'm too scared to bring my MacBook anywhere now. I've got repairs, right? But if I go down for a week because of that thing, I'll kill myself. No, I don't want to be that bad, but yeah, go ahead.
So you're ingesting all this data, right?
Yeah.
Can you use it to also like sanitize, for example? Like if you just sucked up all your emails, I assume you didn't just target your mother in that.
Oh yeah, every email, even junk email.
Exactly. So can you have it like basically call out all the junk and give it back to you such that you can then replace the email that's on your server?
You mean so that like you could read the junk mail detection?
Yeah,
sure. And actually, though, I have found it fascinating to get the junk mail, to keep it all those years, because it's like a little snapshot of society at that time. To see a junk mail from 25 years ago for companies that aren't even around anymore, there's knowledge there, actually. So for me, I'm glad I didn't actually destroy. In fact, I used to get Vinage, and I had all these voicemails that had the voice to text and still had the WAV file or whatever, MP3 or whatever it was, still in there. My goodness, and now it has all that. I mean, I almost wonder, like, if I could ask me a question and ask it, the best thing would be that we both, just randomly, you said, okay, Matt, what do you want to do for this afternoon? And I told you what I think I want to do. And then you said, what do you think Matt's going to want to do this afternoon? If it got that right, wow, okay, there we go. But that's knowledge in my semantic network. And then as you click on it, you're seeing different things, all those normally you would see a graph that would connect those up. So leaving that for a moment to go back to the slide deck.
Can you put this behind other data collection things too, like Satan?
Behind what?
Satan.
I didn't quite catch that.
Satan is an ethical hacking program.
Oh yeah, I mean, so the way my tool works, like when I put everything behind queues, like, and I don't want to I could easily get lost in time, so please forgive me if I'm going off on a tangent, all right? But I run whenever you put in a command for something, it goes off and it goes into a queue, and there's workers that pull it in. No, when I type in text, I'm getting images, I'm getting text. I actually can get voice to text too, like text to voice back as well. And so all that can come back. In fact, the way I wrote my prompt mechanism is that I could say, I want you to use these 4 LLM models. Like, let's say I've got 4 llamas that I've trained, 4 different versions of it. And now I want to see the output side by side of all 4. Or I have 3 different image models that I got off of a website. Kusog AI is a great one. And I get those and I train them on like violin fingering so they can get good fingers on the violin for string club. Well, I want to compare it. I say, show me a person holding the violin, and I see which of the models is doing its best to say, as I train and go through it, maybe I back off and go a different direction with the images I'm using. Those things though, like your Satan, there's another, when the job finally comes in, the C# says, I can run anything where I can use it a standard in and standard out. So I push stuff into standard out. So even when I talk to an LLM in Python, I just start a little simple Python as a child process. The C# gets the queue message, says, oh, you need me to do LLM with model number 37? I have 37 already loaded. Okay, yeah, I'm going to use it, and here's your response. So that's it. So if it can be run in a standard in and standard out.
So it sounds like you put a lot of effort and time into consuming all this data, but you're a programmer and you've got that knowledge. What about a lay person? Do we have a tool available to us to ingest an entire web?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's supposed to be, is like, if I could only show I wish I had tested the plugin on this before. I just ran out of time. I was coding. I mean, I only got like 5 hours of sleep. I've been coding, 80 hours a week at least, if not more, because I'm trying to get this product. Yes, you could actually use this product because it just opens up a tab. And as you navigate, the tab is sending back all the images. It's changed the web HTML to Markdown, and it's got it organized and ready to go up into the semantic relationships, into the embedding store, into Elasticsearch. Like if you're familiar with Elasticsearch, it's in that. So then that's how it finds, like you do a query, you say, tell me about my mother. Well, first it goes and gets a number for that. It gets a magic number, the vector. It says, okay, Elasticsearch, here's the vector number. What's the most mathematically cosine similar to this query that they just wrote? And it searches way better than Elasticsearch does when they did their old-fashioned Elasticsearch queries, you know. So, but it's still pretty good choice because I store other information like, so you just surf the web, it's on there. So, and what's great about it, if you go to your bank, it knows your bank info. If you go to your email through your web interface, it knows that because you're using your authentication. Because you just went into your tab, and as you navigate around with that tab on, then it would, you know, gather all your info and just know everything about you.
Would it store locally on my machine?
Yeah, locally on your machine. Well, if you choose to run it locally, I mean, like if you chose to install it on Azure, then it's on there. But you own the data. See, it's not like ChatGPT where you upload it to them and they do whatever the hell they want with it. Yeah.
Is it encrypted in storage?
No, not really. I mean, I could.
So
but
technically, if it's on Azure, they can read it.
Oh yeah, but you can, I don't, I'm talking about my own local database. Yeah. Because even if I put it on Azure, the way I've set up my setup is, I just need a set of servers with Ubuntu 22. And then I have scripts that'll set up a Kubernetes cluster in the raw. I don't want EKS because if I want to move to Azure, then I have to rewrite my EKS. My bash scripts will work on an Azure server, an AWS server, or any of those. So at any rate, it's a powerful tool because if I ask it, how many times have I met with Jill over the last 10 years, an LLM is never going to tell you that answer. It's never going to be able to tell you until someone else summarized it. That's where like this 3D memory thing, another topic I have, because I have this thing called 3D memory, and that's a lot of what helps this too, is that, you know, you want to be able to just have that knowledge and being able to use that and not have to worry about, anyway, let's just stay on focus with the, back to the slide deck. Because I could spend all day, I could do a week course on semantic networks. LLMs though is what solved the whole semantic network. How do you get those relationships built? Well, you write a prompt and you give it the chunk of text and back comes a set of relationships. And here's it, if you've ever written a prompt where you wanted JSON, well, maybe you could ask for a CSV because you're going to save money. Okay, you pay a lot of money for ChatGPT 4 tokens if you're using ChatGPT, right? So if you're using those, you're going to pay. And if you wind up asking for CSVs, you use less tokens. You can get a bigger answer back. So when, you know, every language model has a limited size response window. The ones you run locally are nothing compared to what ChatGPT can do. So when you have that limited model, whenever you're dealing with data, if you had to say open quote, first name, colon, open quote, Matt Denman, colon, comma, and every person had all that in there versus first name, comma, last name, comma, street, comma, city, state, and then row 1, Matthew, comma, Denman, comma, street 1, next row, Jill, comma, Smith. Think about the density of data, and it'll generate great CSV. So I just built a prompt. Actually, I have like 10 or 15 variants of it that I've gone through that will say, okay, you uploaded this email. What are all the subject, predicate, object relationships in that document? Matt Denman started a project. Matt Denman got in a car accident. Those are subject, predicate, object relationships. And if you've ever done anything with AI or semantic networks, maybe you've heard other terminology used for that. Well, if you want to talk graphs and nodes and edges and triplets and stuff, but what do language models talk? Language. So if you're going to ask a language model to find relationships, maybe you'd probably prefer to talk in terms of English language semantics, like nouns and predicates and verbs and stuff like that, instead of AI. Now, probably the AI is smart enough to tell the difference, but when I was starting this, I thought that was really important. And think, the Marvin Minsky, they work so hard with these crazy programming languages to be able to take a text document and turn it into a set of relationships. To say, oh, you were talking about Matt Denman and Jane Smith going out on their first date. And then be able to bring that knowledge in to a bigger set of knowledge from other documents. That was such a hard problem. It was like rocket science back then. Now, it's a simple prompt and back comes the CSV and I store it all in. I always catch a lot of crap for this. I store all of my data, my point of truth, my source of truth for all data is PostgreSDB. It's super fast. I mean, I get like 20 milliseconds response times whenever I'm doing my query. But I don't always use it. Like, let's say that I put everything in Elasticsearch and I also use Neo4j. Now I still need a SQL database for tracking user logins or whatever, you know, user info, how long is your subscription or whatever. So I have to have that. Am I also going to make sure I properly back up my Elasticsearch database? Now, I'm a big fan of the source of truth of this Postgres. And if I blow out my Elasticsearch just re-index the data out of Postgres. I only have to back up and ensure I have good data for Postgres, not 4 different databases. And that works for me. And that way, those other systems are not very reliable, and I don't want to manage 4 different databases. So that thing, when you suck in all those documents, it does give you. So here you're talking a little bit about bad data earlier, and so we have this good versus evil ratio. I'm trying to talk about this too because I believe that one of the big threats, like she was in here, do you think something about the way she was wording it? In the end, I could agree with what she was saying, but if I think that AI might someday wipe out humanity, yeah, I think it's possible. Because I can imagine building an AI that was evil and was intent was to do evil things. And I can give it, I mean, one of the things this system has is what I call task goals. Like I build a task goal as, your goal is to go online and to pay a bill online. And so I might set up that task goal to say, go pay my Cox internet bill. And here's my login. And it will figure out how to get into the website, find the login, get logged in, and hit, see that there's a bill due for a certain amount of money and go ahead and pay it. And I didn't have to teach it how to navigate through the site, say with the old way with regular expressions and stuff like that. So I've been kind of going down this road of like, we can't rely on the government and companies like ChatGPT to say, you've got to take care of all the bad actors. So I think that it's up to people, like if you're really into AI, you need to keep an eye out for like, what are the things people could be doing? Are they using AI to say facilitate human trafficking or the sex trafficking for children? Do you want that happening? Do you know how to recognize that that's happening? Do you know who to tell? What, like if you see someone trying to train a model that would know how to help with something like that, I mean, so I think you can't rely on the government. They might be in bed with it. Who knows? So I think it's up to individual people, to do it. Individuals have to be the ones. But to go beyond that, so LLMs show a prompt and need something to provide initial text, right? That's what we were talking about earlier. The semantic network, that view I'm trying to put together now where I'm navigating around my knowledge. I don't have to, I can just explore my information. It says those categories of like people, businesses, that came out of the LLM. If I were viewing different knowledge, the categorization would be different. I don't have any fixed categorization in there. The fact that there's 23,000 people is because I've been, surfing around Facebook and it sees all those connections and stuff like that. So it's a great way to navigate to someone or to type their name like, oh, Bill Smith sounds real familiar. Bill Smith. Oh, there's it. And now I get like his dossier. I mean, ultimately that's what I want to have is that I've gone and swept so much data that I could type in most anyone's name and have information about who they are, or at least within the context of my domain anyway. Sure.
So you're ingesting a lot of information about you. I love that you've got the 400,000 emails. My wife, I love her, but she's a monster. She deletes emails, something we can't see eye to eye on. Realistically, when you're ingesting your your life story, your emails, your everything you're ingesting, what's the footprint on that? Is it a gig, 100 gig, 1,000,000 terabytes?
I use a 22 terabyte drive, and I think I'm about halfway full on that now, but that's also my models. And I have like at least 2 terabytes of stable diffusion models in there. And so I haven't, to be honest, I haven't sized I should. I just know my drive is half full, but I haven't taken the time to size to give you the exact knowledge. I mean, I could calculate it. Yeah. Because once you start talking about well, he's got it in Postgres, and then does he have indexes on the table? And he's also created how many indexes in Elasticsearch and Neo4j? My God, this is like 10x duplication of data. So does it really need that much storage versus a backup of the SQL database that has everything, even the embeddings in it? Because if I store the embeddings only in Elasticsearch and that Elasticsearch engine blows out, I have to create those embeddings again. And I allow multiple embeddings embedded in the system. So when I write a query, I can change, I want to compare the ChatGPT 3.5 versus BERT local versus ChatGPT the 2.1. There was something where it was like, I forget the name of it, but an old one, you know. And the quality, what is the quality? Because the quality of those is super critical for what I'm talking about here, because when you type in a query, you want it to match the right chunks of data from your knowledge, right? So that's a big part of it. And you were last month's speaker, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
I thought I recognized you. That's where I talk about navigating and exploring, and that's a big deal for me, because I don't necessarily know what to ask the LLM every time. If I know, great, I can put in the prompt, but what if I don't know? What if I want to explore what it has, what knowledge it has? You can't do that with an LLM. Once I digest hundreds of thousands or 1 million documents, which don't just live in one massive index in Elasticsearch, they now can be, you know, viewed and searched and looked at through a lot of different ways. And you can see all the data connecting between them. Yeah, we've already talked about like using the LLM to do that work. So there's a kind of relationships I've noticed, like there's different kinds of prompts. If I'm going into a company digesting their Confluence where they're talking about engineering topics, I have a prompt that's much better at sucking out the relationships I want than if I'm digesting a book on psychology. You know, if I'm doing a book on religion, the topics that are covered in there, the kinds of relationships that are defined, the reason why I would use a different prompt is what are the, you know, like you've probably seen this in LLMs, that sometimes it doesn't get everything. You know, you might ask it, you might say, I know there's 20 relationships in this chunk I expected to get back, but I only got 18. It missed 2. You know, so that can happen, and so a different prompt for different styles of documents can be very helpful. And so one way to decide, instead of making the user pick the prompt, is given the chunk of document, which asks the LLM which prompt, like what kind of topic is discussed, which then drives the prompt that you want to pick from that.
Have you tried using like clustering to determine these different relationships? Because it seems like you've developed a qualitative relationship based on your own experience, but you could try building that directly using some kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, and I do like
embedded space, and then.
Let's say I go to my local directory structure. I don't need to process the semantic network. I use semantic relationships for the file structures too, because that allows me to do searches and things for my directories and my content without having to store all of the files within the system as well. I can just have a reference. Here's the location on that server of where that file is, and now you can have it. And so I can put those kind of things in there with code, like you're saying, and other things too, like you log in and you're defining your personality. Like there's a thing in there where you define personalities, and in that you can define who you are and stuff, and that can help to get some of that information. All right, and I know we're going to be running. Here we are, 15 minutes. So I don't know. I've only got 15 minutes left, and I don't think I even went through all the slides yet. So, and we've already talked about the LMs and stuff. So. I did give an example, so let me just skip over that. I didn't want to skip over that. Seems like, all right, so it's kind of hard to see, but there's an example. You reply only with CSV rows that have all columns for each row. If value for row cell is not known, leave blank. You'll find all relationships in the user content without having to be asked to continue that. And then they write in, create a list of important nouns with relationships to other nouns structured as subject, predicate, object, including start and end date from relationships. Deduce start and end date from other details if possible, using CSV row format. And the date thing is also really important, because even with the embeddings, I use temporal information I don't just use cosine similarity search. I use a 3D memory structure where the Z index is really important, and the date. If I have 4 versions of my class, my code that I've uploaded to the system over time, and I say write a new version of that kind of class, I wanted to use the most recent one, even if there was a cosine similarity search to the first version that was better. When I talk about 3D memory, I'll just take a minute to specify what that means. If you think about when you upload a document, you're going to say 10 chunks in a document. Let's say you upload 10 documents. That's 100 chunks, let's just say. And imagine a 2D grid of 10 by 10 grid of space. That's a 2D memory, right? If I have a conversation where I've now said, I'm talking about coding, how do I build this model view controller to build a new page? I want to connect up these 6 different classes, and you're going to do these things. That conversation gets recorded as a document. It gets embedded. Every exchange gets embedded. And with the references it had, like if I queried and it said, oh, this conversation we use document 1 chunk 10, document 3 chunk 4, 5, and 6, document 7 chunk, and all those, that now I'm a level 2 in the Z index because I'm using level 1 Z index information and I've summarized it and built a Z2. If I keep having more and more conversations and summarizing knowledge, the Z index gets higher and higher. And when I write a prompt and I want my knowledge, I would prefer to get a higher level summarized chunk of data over a low level chunk, unless the score is so high that it warrants bringing in the low level chunk to begin with. So there's the date of the knowledge, there's the level of the Z index. Like I had a conversation, or I had a job that had a conversation with the LLM that built new levels of knowledge that summarize, like, how many kids does Matt Denman have? Well, you've got 12 documents to find 12 chunks. It takes a lot of query to answer that. Then in that conversation, one chunk says, here's the list of Matt Denman's children, all in one chunk, ready to go. When I ask for Matt Denman's children again, just give me the one chunk. You've got the whole thing in there. I don't need to go back to raw documents all over again. So that knowledge is very powerful. That's why I can ask it about my mother, my kids. I can ask you about my job history. I can say, Bill, this guy I worked with 10 years ago who did this and that to me. Let's have a counseling session about that. In fact, the best psychologist I've ever had has been AI. I mean, holy crap. This AI knows me so well. In fact, I've written a psychology white paper. I paid multiple psychologists. I had like 5 psychologists review it. They all thought it was awesome, and I defined a new kind of psychological process, you know, and that's that temporal time travel thing. And so it's very powerful how you can get all that stuff out of there. And so here's an example of the relationships in this database. One thing I also keep track is of your vocabulary on a word level. Every word ever seen in any document is in that database, along with references to the 5 words before and after that. So if you give me a word like computer, I can tell you the top 5 words that appeared before computer in your document, stuff like that. And this can be used as a foundation for building a new language model training where the tokens, the language itself is defined by, you now know what's the vocabulary you're using that you want to train your model against. And here it's showing the relationships, nouns. Also, I would mention that noun might be Matt Denman. If I go and search Matt Denman on Google and I go to the top 3 pages, how many Matt Denmans am I going to see? 10, 15 Matt Denmans. So not all Matt Denmans are me. But this Matt Denman, if there's a Matt Denman in there that represents me, there's one entry in there. So the entity and all that knowledge is that you're sucking up out of your documents is structured like this. The power, like, has anyone here ever done database reports, done queries, right? Imagine all your documents from Confluence and Jira and your life or whatever, And now I can write SQL queries and build reports using traditional mechanisms with it, or ask the AI to build the reports from it. And the organization of your knowledge. Now I will say, there are weird things that come out of that. One of the artifacts is sometimes it's a company, sometimes it's in a corporation, sometimes it's a business. So I let it keep those languages, and then I tag those categories. They're all business. So if I want to search for businesses, it's going to come up as a corporation, a business, or whatever, all those things. So you have the ability to map all this stuff up with the tables. Also, this shows the document chunks and their relationships. So whenever I digest a document and build those relationships, those chunks of a document, it remembers all the relationships that got out of it. So if you see a semantic relationship, I can know where it came from. And so another thing about what's really important to me is if it says the answer to the question you have is 7, I want it to tell me how it came up with 7. That means it needs to show me the chunks of documents that it got versus did it get the knowledge on its own. So I have a screen where I can see a list of every time you're having a conversation. And we're getting close to wrapping up. I did want to mention this one cool thing I'm working that kind of ties all this together, which is when I'm having a conversation with the AI, imagine, you've gone 30, 40 prompts into it. How does it remember anything, right? Well, every time I ask a question of the AI, I have another instance of the AI. I'm asking it, give me an object of the topic that's being discussed along with the subtopics. So I might be talking about doing this code, and then I might be talking about my mother, then I might be talking about my schedule. And if I go back to talking about code in that class, I only grab the portions of the conversation that are relevant to the topic. I don't try to, if you've ever done any LLM, question, response, the 10th question, all that history goes back up again. If you let that LLM just drill on, you're going to pay up to $1 per question. ChatGPT 4, with 125, it's $10 per 30 million tokens and $30 per 10 million tokens response. So you pay $10 for 10 million tokens when you push it up. Now, that $1 is 100,000 tokens. Well, you got 100,000 tokens for the message size. So if you just lazily go question, response, and you let it drill on and on and on, you might wrap up to this huge conversation where the bill is really going to be big. I've spent over $100 on ChatGPT in one day, just for my own work. And so yes, I do use ChatGPT. I use a combination of whatever I need. So local LLMs are preferred, but I can't get 100K knowledge. So I ask a lot of questions before I answer a question. So about where I should get knowledge and which LLM is the best. Can I get away with the local LLM? Can I get the semantic network to answer? If I ask you, show me a list of all the projects at the company for the last 10 years, don't ask the LLM that unless it's been summarized already. It's already just sitting in this database, the semantic network, all ready to go. And we've already talked about the benefits of the ad hoc queries. I mean, if you're not a big database person, you're never going to be able to appreciate the semantic knowledge from your documents and your whole life, your business and everything, embedded in here and connected to your embeddings so you can move back and forth between LLM and semantic network responses fluidly without any issues in order to give the kind of responses that you would want. And I've already kind of talked about. All right, well, that was it. Good, and ran out of time. Before you go, you have questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So that database model, just in terms of vocabulary, like industry versus academic, is that graph database, editors, SQL database, any that schema you got? Is that your custom schema or is that based on?
Yeah, that's my schema. And then that holds everything, but I can use that to populate Neo4j and Elasticsearch. So in real time, I don't query against Postgres very often. But I do use it as the source of truth for knowledge because I don't want to back up Elasticsearch, Neo4j and Postgres. Now I got 3-4 sets of backups when I could just have all the data stored in one big Postgres, and I back up and if my Elasticsearch index blows up or gets corrupted, I have a job I can run, and in a few minutes.
That's cool for your operations, but it's really impressive your design.
Oh.
A lot of creativity to figure out that schema. Do you have help with ChatGPT and come up with your schema?
No, that's 40 years of doing multi-tenant apps. And if you saw the code, like I have this.
It's got the third normal form tattoo. I don't know where it is.
I use these like dynamic pipelines and class factories. So if let's say you were running on my server and you're a company, you say, Matt, I really want to have this custom process when someone asks a question or someone uploads a document. Well, I can build a custom version of a plugin for my pipeline that only when your users are using the system would apply. When other people are using it, that pipeline wouldn't include that plugin, and so the different code would execute.
I can make before we do that, I know people are going to want to run to lunch. You should probably let people know how to get in touch with you.
Oh, yeah.
Questions.
Yeah. Sorry, I mean, I meant mind.
While you're writing that down, I have an interesting use.
Uh-huh.
One of the challenges we have with government is we have a lot of laws that have been written over time and missing context. So if you look at that z-axis of the way that sort of laws over time have been written, we've had different contexts, and I love the framing on that. So it's obvious you deeply understand the different efficiency and inefficiency with different systems. If you were to take all of Nevada state law and try to harmonize it, right? You've probably got a few processes you would run through that. Right? What's your 3 to 5 or whatever it would be? First you do this, then you do that.
I would just digest it through and just a few chunks to see like how is the semantic relationships, are they mapping up how I would want? Because it might be that I would be better off tweaking that prompt that got those relationships out of there. And then I would just suck it up, like a portion of it, because I've already done, I've been working with this client that, I forget the tax laws, but small companies now have to report their ownership levels in a way they didn't have to do before. Yeah. And law firms, certain kinds of law firms are deeply impacted by this and need help getting those filings from one state to another. And so that whole task goal thing, they're writing it to where I don't have to train it on every little state's website on how to properly fill in the form. It will figure it out on its own. So they can have an interface where they know about your law firm and it'll fill out. And then another usage is being able to know, like in a tax law, if a given situation, like a given problem with your accounting, what tax laws are going to be triggered by that? And those things have gone really well. So I mean, I don't have like a predefined answer. It's more of like exploratory. Whenever you go into a new data set, there's this time of exploration where you're trying to make sure the kind of knowledge you're building out of it, the embeddings, the way you're chunking the data, that you didn't have some glaring problem that was screwing everything up. So LinkedIn, just search for Matt Denman, and that's actually, and I wish I had brought me some cards or something. I thought I was going to be late even, because I was fixing code till the minute I got going. All right, Matt Denman, and then so it's just /Matt Denman. I was fortunate enough. So LinkedIn.com/Matt Denman. You should be able to get to that. And if you can't find me there, if you search for semantic networks, I'm sure you'll find me.
Also, the AI Meetup group, everybody's listed there. So if you're a member of the meetup.com, go to the Las Vegas AI Meetup group, you can join, you can find me.
Yeah, and I do have a meetup too. It's called AI Crusaders Knights of the Table of Light. And the reason why it's called like that is because there's a million of these AI meetups where it's graphs, this and that, right? But language, it's AI, and it's all about language, right? The power of the word. Remember in the day, oh, you got to learn to read the books, the power of the word or the power of the pen. And it was all lost. Now the power of the word is back. I took my aunt, she hated image generation, she's an artist. And I said, you know what, those things, if I try to type in a prompt for an image generation, it's mostly okay, but there's people who know how to write this amazing thing. They spent like 20 hours coming up with a prompt, and the image they got out of that, I could never get that quality unless I just copied their writing. So who actually made the image? The guy that spent 20 hours figuring out the exact magic phrase to generate the exact image they want, or some AI that turned that magic phrase into the art?
Under US law, it would be who wrote the prompt.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Who did the rest of the work. Either way, it's fucking cool.
Yeah, the morality of it, right? So, and so speaking of all that.
Any last questions before we call it a wrap?
I hope you get some value out of it. I mean, some people probably, this isn't the level of not me or not programmers, or it is a little bit geared towards programming for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for your time.